weeks when the hardest thing that you lift never actually enters the gym. It's a deadline that you can't move, or a parent who got sick, or an argument that's still running around in your head at 2 a.m, or the third night in a row when sleep simply does not happen. And then you walk into the gym and weight that moved last week suddenly feels bolted to the floor. You're sore longer, you have no patience, you can't tell whether training is helping your stress or adding to it. And somewhere online, a person with excellent lighting is ready to tell you that cortisol is eating your muscle and putting fat around your waist. So today, we are rescuing cortisol from the internet, maybe. What's this hormone actually for? Why does exercise raise it if exercise is good for us? When does useful stress become chronic stress? And when life is already asking too much of you, should you keep training, back off, or stop? I'm Pete Wright, he's trainer Surgeon Inyats, and this is Built for Health. Hi, how are you? Are you stressed? Are you feeling it?
I got a little stressed right before this podcast. I got a little bad news, and I'm like, okay, I'm stressed. I need to calm down.
Oh,
relax.
I thought it was me. I thought
No.
I am a salve for your stress, is what you're saying.
No, it's the piece of equipment I order, and it's just taking forever to be delivered. And they keep canceling and rescheduling, and I'm just like, okay, someone needs to do something about it. And
Yeah.
my schedule has to change. And it's just like, okay, now I'm starting to stress. I'm like, okay, I need
You're
to
up to
relax.
Yeah.
And I did my workout, and I feel great.
Oh, good. That's good. You get it all out of your system. And now you're going to tell me why some weeks weight feels heavier than others, and what all this cortisol stuff is all about.
I know. I hear people always say, talk about the stress and cortisol, but stress isn't necessarily what, destroys the progress.
Yeah.
Stress without adequate recovery is where the problem begins. And if somebody's doing everything right in the gym, but their strength is going like backwards, and they're exhausted, and they're constantly like sore and sleeping poorly, and their motivation has disappeared. The answer isn't automatically like sometimes more training. Sometimes the smart, decision you can make is improving what happens during those 23 hours of the day. Like you have to find a way to recover from that stress. You have to see what that stress is, and then, they talk about cortisol, and there's a big misconception that, cortisol is bad and we need to lower it. So, that's not the goal. Like the goal, the cortisol is necessary. The stress is necessary. Like exercise itself is stress.
Yeah. Right.
So,
well, and I think it like all the stuff that you're talking about is stuff that I have felt, will, I'm sure, feel again. And I think there's this useful question for me that is riding over the entire conversation that I'll bet people might share, which is, can I force myself through these feelings, and what can I actually recover from on any given day? Like, what can I recover from today when I'm feeling like this? And I don't like. My body, I think it keeps a life stress ledger that I don't always get to read. And so I'd like to understand how that aligns with a recovery budget, because you said something that really hit me, which was like stress without proper recovery is the challenge. So I'd like to land there eventually, but start with what cortisol actually is and what it's doing.
So what cortisol is, so when people hear the word cortisol, they usually think it's something bad that needs to be lowered, right? But cortisol isn't the enemy. It's a hormone produced by your adrenal glands, and we actually need it to survive. It helps regulate the blood sugar, blood pressure, inflammation, energy availability and our response to stress. So cortisol also follows a normal daily rhythm. It generally higher in the morning to help us wake up, get out of the bed, get moving, and then lower later in the day as we're getting ready to go to bed and go to sleep. So the problem isn't having cortisol. The problem is when stress becomes chronic and your body is not getting enough opportunity to recover from that stress.
So the implication is the cortisol levels are on a weird schedule or a constant schedule. So when it should be going down, my stress is allowing my adrenals to produce too much cortisol.
Yes.
And it's staying in my system when it should be winding me down.
Yes. It's all about the recovery. That's when it comes down to. So what does cortisol actually do when we're stressed? Okay. So when you're stressed, your brain basically tells your body, okay, something's happening. We need the energy right now. And your body releases the stress hormone, including cortisol and adrenaline. And your heart maybe start beating faster, blood pressure can increase. You become more alert and your body makes more energy available. So you're ready to handle whatever is happening, And that's great if you're like running away from the danger. But the problem is today we're actually not running from anything. We're sitting at the desk, worrying about work, worrying about tomorrow, the bills, arguing with somebody and all that stuff. So the body can still respond as, thought something was threatening, bad was happening, even though we're still, sitting on the chair, sitting on the couch. So short-term stress isn't necessarily bad. We need to understand the difference between short-term stress and the long-term stress. That's where the difference is. The short-term stress is normal. Something happens, your body reacts and you deal with it, and eventually your body calms back down. Just like exercise.
Right.
Exercise is like one example. Lift weight, you put stress on your body, your heart rate goes up, your muscles are working hard, cortisol can increase, and you temporarily that creating that stress. But then you go home, eat, sleep, and recover, and your body basically says that was difficult. I better become stronger, so I better be prepared for the next time.
Sure.
So that's how exercise works. Stress recovery equals adaptation. Now, long-term stress, everything kind of breaks down.
Yeah.
When we stress all the time, imagine your body has an alarm, and an alarm is supposed to turn on when something's wrong, and then turn back off when everything's okay. But imagine if that alarm just keeps going off all day, all the stress, everyday life, and when you go then to the gym and you're not able to turn that off, and you absolutely destroy yourself for like an hour and a half in the gym, and your body doesn't pull all those things into like separate boxes, it all adds up, and then sometimes think, I think people in the fitness often forget your body doesn't, say, okay, this is stress come from work and this stress is coming from the gym and all that stuff. But exercise can actually help, like it helped me today get through the stress, because now when I'm working out, I'm more focused on what I'm doing. So it takes my mind off of everyday stress of what was going on with my delivery and all that stuff. And I'm able to focus on what I'm doing. And afterwards, I actually feel calmer. My body like kind of calmed down now.
So is it a fair assessment, just hearing the way you're talking about it, we're not effectively burning through cortisol when we exercise. That's not what's happening, right? But you are processing stress?
Yes. So your body is responding to that stress, but it's a short term, like I said.
Yeah, you're channeling
the stress, yes, and then the recovery comes, and then the adaptation comes. It's that chronic, always stress, the long-term stress that affects everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have acute stress and the chronic stress, and it's a huge difference between those two. So.
Is there, so far it feels like we're talking about lifting, time in the gym, and how it acts as a response to stress and cortisol levels and those sorts of things. Should a normal person, I don't even put myself in that category. Should a normal person care what their cortisol is 30 minutes after they work out? Like, is that a thing you think about now that you've figured out you worked it all off during your workout today, your own stress? Do you use it ever as like a tool, a training tool?
No, I don't really think about it right now. I'm like focused on recovery.
Okay.
That's where my mind goes after because I started feeling better. And I'm like, okay, that helped. That cleared my mind. I was able to focus on my workout. I put a lot of stress now on my muscles, and I put that energy towards that. Now I'm feeling better, and I focus on recovery because I know that's what's going to help. I'm not going back to like stressing now more about my delivery and all that stuff. That's when then my cortisol stays elevated and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's focused about recovery.
Yeah.
And, people always talk about the cholesterol, how it affects their testosterone and, cortisol belly, what they call.
Well, I definitely want to get there because I feel like that's one that we're going to need to address. But I think for me, just reflecting on the way you're talking about this, and I think for people listening, when you are feeling stress, that sort of, I'm going to challenge my body's going to respond, and then I'm going to recover.
Yes.
The chronic stress, if you're under chronic stress, it's either persisting through your workout or it arrives so frequently that you finish your workout and recovery never actually catches up.
Exactly.
Okay.
It never happens.
All right.
Pretty much because you're constantly under stress.
So that load, which normally we're putting ourselves under for training, now includes work and caregiving and finances and grief and illness and constant travel, whatever, your relationships, dieting, your sleep, all of those things. You're already challenging yourself and your body, your physiology, and then you go to the gym.
Yeah, and you should be able to kind of try to turn that off and focus on the workout. That's when the workout can actually help. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, if you keep working out now and I'm keep thinking about all that stuff, the workout's not going to help. It's probably going to make it worse because I'm just like now adding more stress on top of it. My cortisol is going up even more. So that's that chronic stress that kills the recovery because it affects everything. And that's, where it affects, testosterone and that, your belly fat and all that stuff, how it's the chronic stress and that cortisol can influence the appetite, the food choice, and metabolism, and where fat tends to be stored. But stress can make the fat gain easier, indirectly because you're sleeping poorly, craving high calorie foods, eat more, moving less. And, so if somebody tells you that one supplement is going to lower cholesterol and melt that belly fat, that's kind of major oversimplification. So it's not the stress that the cortisol is that chronic stress that influence everything, influence your recovery. And that's why you start storing now more fat and you're not able to lose weight or gain muscle because you don't recover. Even for gaining muscle, you have to have adequate sleep and eat right and, all that stuff. It's important. That's what's actually happening. It's that chronic stress. It's not really the cortisol itself.
Yeah. So when you see someone who says, hey, cortisol belly is a thing, and there's probably a supplement that we can take to take it off, doesn't actually address the fact that you're in a state of chronic stress.
Yeah. That doesn't like you. That's why I said you got to look at that 23 hours that you're not in the gym. What's happening? Fix that. Yeah. That's what's going to help the cortisol.
Well,
and the stress level.
It also reminds me that when I'm in a state of stress, chronic stress, constant stress, I am psychologically and emotionally more likely to say yes to things that appeal to me as a quick fix, right?
Yeah.
So it like if you present me the guy who's telling me that there's a thing I can take that'll fix me, when I'm stressed, I am more likely to just get real mad and push buy right? Like
Yeah.
impulsive purchasing behavior is a symptom of chronic stress.
Yes.
Do you have any insight on cortisol and testosterone?
So this is the thing when it comes to testosterone and the cortisol. You'll sometimes people say that cholesterol actually kills testosterone. So that's not true. A temporary increase in cholesterol from exercise is not going to destroy your testosterone or your gains, but prolonged stress, inadequate sleep, aggressive dieting, and insufficient recovery can create an environment that's less favorable for normal reproductive hormones, performance, and muscle recovery. So instead of becoming obsessed with measurement, it's more useful to look at the bigger picture. Like, are you sleeping? Are you eating enough? Is your performance improving? Do you feel recovery? Do you feel like your recovery is better between the workouts? Those things tell us much more about whether your lifestyle is supporting your training. So, and that's kind of how it affects the testosterone. So it's not really, it doesn't really kill testosterone. It might create an environment that's, like I said, less favorable for normal reproductive hormones. So that's kind of how it has that effect where people say, oh, it kills the testosterone. Not really. It's, again, recovery. That's what's killing it.
All right. So recovery. You've said it like 900 times.
Yes.
And so let's talk then specifically about a cortisol forward recovery and start with sleep. And I kind of want to start with sleep because I'd like to talk to you about your sleep. How are you doing?
I'm trying my best. I know I'm not doing great in that area. And every time I'm like, oh, I need to sleep more. That's why I'm like taking all these little naps during the day. But it's just because I'm here all the time, like 24/7. So when I leave, like I try to do normal stuff like normal people do and not feel like I'm at work. Because if I go home and I go right to sleep and wake up and come here back at 5 a.m., I feel like I never left this place. So sometimes I want to just do normal stuff that has nothing to do with fitness or gym or anything like that. But I feel like I don't get a chance. So that's why I stay up later. But, I know it's affecting also my progress. And it's that missing piece. And, you can have a great training program and nutrition plan, but if you're constantly sleeping, 5 hours a night, you're making that recovery harder. So sleep affects, there's that stress response, appetite regulation, cognitive performance, training performance, and, the whole recovery. So, but that poor sleep can also, disturb the normal daily pattern of cholesterol actually.
Of cortisol.
So, of cortisol, cholesterol. And so there's another piece that people overlook, when you're exhausted and you're usually not making the same decisions. And that's true, actually. And I can relate to that. And, you may crave more calorie-dense foods and, move less throughout the day. It's true, taking little naps here and there, and then rely on caffeine like me and energy drinks and all that stuff, which I shouldn't. And then have less motivation to train. And that's why sometimes I'm like, okay, maybe I'll train tomorrow, today maybe I'll just rest. So sometimes, what people blame entirely is that high cortisol. And it's actually the combination of the stress, inadequate sleep, maybe poor nutrition.
So how do you advise people who are feeling like that from the trainer perspective, which is like, I had a terrible night. I'm dealing with this chronic stress. I recognize I'm in that state where stress leads to poor sleep, which leads to worse training and muscle recovery. And then that leads to me being frustrated. And then I get more stressed. Like how do you work that kind of recovery into your regular training process or thinking?
So I created a routine, and I had a great routine before I had an accident and broke my arm. So I'm trying to get back into that routine. And every day is exactly the same. Everything happens. It's like same time. And I know exactly what to do when. And, in case if I'm too busy, there's a plan B. Like if I can't have a meal, I have a good, healthy snack ready for me and all that stuff. So I have to plan ahead. And I used to be really good at that. That's when all my results came in. And after, broke my arm, that kind of routine goes down because now you can't do a lot of stuff that you were able to do before. And then, trying to get back on track is hard.
Hard, yeah.
Yeah. And I slowly started doing one thing at a time because I know maybe sometimes if I try everything at once, I won't be able to do it. So I started actually this morning and it's going well so far. I, got everything like my breakfast and my multivitamins on time and, drink my protein and did my workout and got my collagen in and all that stuff. And I had a perfect routine. And now I'm like going back to that and sticking to that. And today's been going well. So everything on time, just got to make sure tonight, go to sleep on time because tomorrow I got to get up at 4 a.m. So I got to make sure I get that. I want that 7 hours of sleep. No more 5 hours, maybe 6. I want to get that at least 7 hours. And I know during that time, like that's when my testosterone was high, when I had more energy, when I was feeling much better. I didn't feel like I needed to take a nap. I even was able to deal with the stress a lot better.
Yeah.
Than I am when I'm already tired and I'm running on, 5 hours of sleep.
Yeah, right. 5 hours, which, and I know they say some say that sleep is highly contextual to the person, right? Like like some people need less sleep, particularly as you get older, your hormones naturally will wake you up at weirder times. I certainly have found that myself. I have a natural alarm that's about 5:45 in the morning, and there's nothing I can do about it. It doesn't matter what time I go to bed. I'm up at 5:45 in the morning. And I also know that under stress, like you can't cut food or sleep or add more cardio or keep lifting every heaviest set and expect that recovery bill never to come due on your body. Right? That piece of balance is a thing I feel like I'm constantly dodging.
Yeah. It's not easy. It's hard, but you got to find what works for you.
Yeah.
Everyone's a little bit different.
So just a minute on dieting, because I know dieting, I think people may not consider it a stress in this regard, but we want to flag it. Dieting is a stress.
Oh, dieting is also a stressor. Yeah, definitely. People sometimes forget that dieting itself puts stress on the body. If you're significantly reducing calories while training hard, you're asking your body to do more with less available energy. Now, add low carbohydrates, lots of cardio, and then you have poor sleep on top of it and stress from everyday life, and you create a much longer recovery demand. This doesn't mean that, calorie deficits are bad. They're necessary when you need the fat loss. If that's your goal, it means the more, aggressively you diet, the more attention you need to pay now to recovery, the training volume, the protein intake, sleep, and just overall stress.
Yeah.
But it can put a lot of stress. So you kind of have to know your goal and plan, have a good recovery plan around it.
Sleep, move. Where I'm leading here is like, what do we do about it if we're feeling stressed? How do you feel? Like you opened today by talking about how you were using the gym to work off some of your stress, that you had it up to here with the world and vendors, and it was time to take it out in the gym. If we look at it like a traffic light, right? Like, how do you know when your green light means go, red light means stop and investigate?
I mean, I know because I know exercise for me is what helps me with my stress, because you have to find what helps actually with your stress. Maybe it's a different hobby that people have that helps, and focus on that. Because regular exercise is actually associated with better stress regulation, like improved mood and sleep, and it's been proven. Greater resilience to psychological stress over time. Like exercise is great for that. So you have to find your hobby with something that helps you with that stress. Because when I'm lifting, my attention shifts away from whatever I've been thinking about and towards the task that's in front of me, thinking about breathing, the weight technique, finishing the set. So, because I know the exercise also affects the brain chemical involved in the mood and reward, including endorphins and dopamine and serotonin and, all that stuff. So that can contribute to the calmer, clearer feeling people often experience after the workout. So, I wouldn't just, tell listeners, you're stressed, so don't train because your cholesterol is already high.
Yeah.
That's too, simplistic. Right. If you're mentally stressed but physically capable of training, the gym may actually be one of your best outlets, So the distinction is stress versus under recovery. If you're stressed but sleeping reasonably well, eating enough, and performing normal, training can be beneficial. So, your gym can be both a stressor and stress reliever.
Well, and I know for me, there's like a gate. It's like an either or. If I'm feeling stressed, it's really easy to say, oh, cut the gym. But what I have been like over the last several years, what I feel like I've been really working at is remembering that just getting in the door of the gym is the gate. Once I'm in the gym, I have a lot of choices, right? I can reduce sets or load or whatever. Like I can make choices depending on how I'm feeling once I'm there. And I think that's the bit of advocacy that I want to make sure is there, that to your point specifically, just get to the gym and see what happens.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be great work. It doesn't have to be, because it's Monday and it's supposed to be maybe a chest day or back, whatever. Sometimes I get in the workout and get in the gym to do a workout just to help me with the stress. It has nothing to do with, my regular schedule of training and stuff like that. I get in there and I just do random stuff, do stuff that I actually love and enjoy doing it. And it helps. It helps with the stress, because now I'm doing something that, makes me happy. It makes me good, feel good. Yeah. And I'm able to focus on that. So, if you have one of those days, just do that, do whatever you like. You don't have to always stick so strict to the schedule. Like doing any kind of workout is better than doing that workout. But it's better at that moment to control that stress that will help you later, in your gains or weight loss,
right?
Stuff like that. You got to look at the bigger picture and focus on that.
Cortisol is not eating your muscle. Getting to the gym is better than not getting to the gym, and go to bed at a reasonable time.
Yes.
Look, why did we even do this podcast? We should have started with that.
I know.
Thank you, everybody, for hanging out and listening to the whole thing. Take some of these lessons, see how they apply to you. Do you see yourself in this conversation at all? I don't at all, of course, ever. What? We sure appreciate you joining us here today. If you've got questions about training, recovery, or how to make strength work in your life, we want to hear them. Head over to the show notes. Just swipe down and tap the little link that says submit a question. And you can send it in for the coach. Don't forget to subscribe and share. This is how we grow stronger together. Thanks for listening to Build for Health. We'll catch you next week in the gym.